Okay, now we're graphing quadratics from vertex form, which is very similar to standard form, except you don't have to do any work to find the vertex. First, we're going to talk about how the graph is going to be shifted from the parent function y equals x squared and how it's translated. So you need to tell me how it's shifted, whether it's compressed or stretched, and whether it's opening down or reflected across the x-axis. So the A does the same thing as the standard form. It tells us whether it's opening up or down and whether it's stretched narrow based on whether that absolute value of A is greater than 1 or whether it's compressed wider if that A, the absolute value of A, is between 0 and 1. What you do need to know is that the H shifts it horizontally, and the K shifts vertically. But if you notice in the formula, this is a x minus h. So what that means is that you're going to use the opposite sign of what's in the function to shift it horizontally that way. The k you won't. The k you use the sign that is there. So for this first one, I have this part that's only thing that's changed, so that's my h. And because it's a negative 4, I use the opposite sign for that. That means my h is positive 4. So what that means is it's going to shift horizontally in a positive 4. It's horizontally 4 units in a positive direction, so it shifts right 4. It's not shifted up or down because there is no k. And the a is a 1, so it's the same as the parent function, so it's not stretched or compressed. In this second one, that 5 is really my k. And the k is negative 5. I don't change the sign of that one. And the k shifts it vertically, so what that means is this one's going to shift down 5. Okay? And then this one, I have a little bit of each. The 4 on the inside, that's going to shift it. You got to use the opposite sign. So it's shifted right 4. The minus 2 outside, that's going to shift down 2. That's my k. The 3 that's out in front, because the absolute value of 3 is greater than 1, that means that it's stretched. And this is going to be stretched by 3. Okay, so to graph this, what I first will do for this one is tell which way it's shifted. And this one's going to be shifted left 3, up 4, and because it's a negative, it's reflected across the x-axis, which means it's opening down. And because the absolute value of that A is less than 1, it's going to be compressed. So that means it's going to be wider than the parent function. So it's compressed by 1/2. So to graph it, I'm going to find my vertex first. The vertex comes from the h and k. It was shifted, the vertex of the parent function is at 0, 0. And this was shifted left 3 and up 4. Which means my vertex is going to be negative 3, positive 4. So I have my axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. So in this one, it's easier than the standard form because you don't have to do any work to find your vertex. But I do need to do some work to find the other parts to it. So I'm going to have these other points, -4, -5, -2, -1. I'm going to plug in -2. So when I plug in -2, I have -2 plus 3 squared plus 4. And I have to do the parentheses first, so that makes that a 1. So -1/2 times 1 squared, well 1 squared becomes 1, so that's going to be -1/2 plus 4. And I'm okay with you using a decimal for this point because you're going to need to write it on the number line basically. So 3.5. That's going to be the -4 also. When x is -1, so I have -1/2 times -1 plus 3 squared plus 4. And simplify that and it becomes 2. So I can graph those on here now. I have -2, positive 3.5, so that's going to be between 3 and 4, and I'm going to reflect that on the other side at -4, 3.5, and then I have another point, -1, positive 2, and then -5, positive 2. And if you notice, this one is a little bit wider than my parent function because the a was less than 1, but the absolute value of the a was less than 1. Okay, here you go. You can try these two. I'm going to give you the answer to the first one, and you can check your answer with that in 5 seconds. Okay, so here's the graph. The work's there. Your vertex was +1, +3. Remember, you have to use the opposite of that sign, so +1, +3. And it's opening down because this is negative. It should be opening down. And it's a little bit more narrow than the parent function because the absolute value of that a is greater than 1. So there you go.